Nintendo.
Back Wednesday! It better be delicious!
So, as I'm sure you're all aware, unless you've been living under a literal rock, Game Freak got hacked. Yes, the almighty powerhouse of Game Freak was infiltrated by, well, probably an employee that they fucked off, and now gigabytes upon gigabytes worth of game files, data, lore has been dropped on the Pokemon community. Now, as a wise man once said, I'm massively dubious about it being anything real. I'd take this with the biggest grain of salt, even a heap of salt. If you don't know about it, don't worry. Like Toby, we should all take these quote-unquote leaks with a grain of salt and not take it at face value. However, most of what has been leaked has been really interesting to take a look at, and in many ways completely changes the way we look at some certain Pokemon. An account by the name of Centro Leaks has been the main spearhead in this data leak. Although there is a bunch of information being tweeted out by this guy, he has had his fair share of controversies in the past, mostly about how accurate or reliable his stances or quote-unquote leaks are on the Pokemon franchise. So like we said in the beginning, take it all with a pinch of salt. One of the first tweets from Centro went as follows: for all of those just tuning in, we're currently covering the Game Freak Terror leak. Lots of source files and beta content for past Pokemon games are currently leaking, along with a few details on upcoming projects. We expect more information to be uncovered in the coming hours and days. What follows within this thread can only be described as insane. Let's start off with this. Game Freak GigaLeak confirms Ounce is the codename for Switch 2. Pokemon Gaia Gen 10 codename is being developed for Ounce. There's not a whole bunch that we can take from this statement. I mean, it was pretty obvious that Generation 10 would have been in the works and probably has been since the development of Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon are pretty obscure when it comes to codenames for their future projects, and that's for good reason. We can't really take anything away from the codename Gaia, and for the codename for the successor of the Switch, the same thing applies. Now, that's not to say that we're not going to get more information on these two things mentioned in the future. As we know, this leak has a lot of data, so within the coming days, we may have a bit more information on both Generation 10 and the Nintendo Ounce. Imagine if they actually call it that. I know, it's a codename, I know. Pokemon codename Gaia has two versions, version K and version N. Any guesses what the final... Shut up. No. No one outside of Game Freak is gonna know what the Generation 10 titles will be, because that piece of information that you've just given us is so lackluster. Is it in English, Japanese, American? There's not enough information to make assumptions. In all seriousness, once again, we knew this would be the case. We knew Generation 10 would be in development. We knew it would have two versions of the same game. We knew this. Anyone getting hyped over this statement right here? Please tell me why. Known leaker Necrolipe, okay, claims that Pokemon Gen 10 will be for both Switch 1 and Switch 2. We can confirm the leak includes a mention of a Switch 1 version of Pokemon Gaia. So yes, they are at least testing it on the Switch 1. Whether they will end up releasing it, we'll have to see. Now this is kind of interesting. I was pretty convinced that Generation 10 would solely release on the newest hardware at the time. So Nintendo developing the game to be run on both the Switch and the quote-unquote Ounce is a pretty cool concept. I mean, it's been done in the past, especially by Nintendo's competitors, but that's not to say that Nintendo as a company haven't done this before in the past too. One that comes to mind is Breath of the Wild, funnily enough. Did you guys know that Breath of the Wild released on the Wii U? Like, what the fuck? Should be looking like this. Good God. We then get these images. From what has been said, it seems to show the process of how Arceus and Giratina were designed. Pretty cool to see how the process works, but this is just the surface of seeing how Game Freak develops their games. Also, look at my boy. Please never let me see you like this again, my guy. Yeah, I'm going to take that pinch of salt and forget I ever saw this. Pokemon MMO in development, codename Synapse. New Pokemon game developed in collaboration with Game Freak and ILCA. It's a multiplayer / battle focused game, and here are some of the files in the leak. Now this might be my favorite part of the leak. This image seems to show some plans for a potential online multiplayer Pokemon game. That is just a crazy concept to me, especially considering the whole drama that recently went down between the Pokemon Company and the developers of Palworld. I mean, Pokemon might just be exploring this side of their games to try and monopolize on what Palworld attempted. They saw Palworld succeed in the gap in the market, that being the multiplayer aspect of a monster catching RPG, and now they want a taste of that juicy MMO revenue. I think with the amount of potential projects that Pokemon / Game Freak / ILCA, etc. are working on currently, it seems that they may be stretching themselves a little bit too far. That's my main worry. We all know that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet felt rushed and unfinished upon release, and I'm sure not one Pokemon fan would wish for another product like that. So my only hope is that if they are to try the MMO side of things, that they take their time and really perfect each aspect. Not to mention that Nintendo servers haven't been known to be the best, so that's another thing that is hopefully fully developed for this next console. If the servers aren't upgraded and a brand new Pokemon MMO game does eventually come out, it could be a massive disaster. They can barely handle a 5-minute raid battle between 4 people in Scarlet and Violet. They 100% need to upgrade big time. But it doesn't matter because Centro lied. Okay. Oh wow, the official map editor for Gen 3 is included in the leak. I'm sure this is very interesting to most people, me included, but I can see why some people are like, meh. If you're someone who loves to develop games or make mods to existing ones, I can only imagine how cool this must be to actually see. A company like Game Freak using its tools in action. It's actually quite inspiring, to be honest. I love seeing beta versions of existing Pokemon, and something about seeing the original design concept and comparing it to what we actually get is great. In most cases, what we actually get is probably the better version. For example, the Zekrom and Reshiram beta versions. Yeah, they are pretty cool, but what we actually got is miles better. The beta versions 100% look like early concept ideas for legendary Pokemon. I'll obviously leave a link to this entire thread in the description below, but here are a couple of beta sprites that I really liked. Taking a look at this unused footage from Pokemon Black and White is so cool. It seems to look mostly the same as what we actually got, but I love this little scene of Ghetsis passing the crown to you. I am skipping around slightly, so not following chronologically how the leaks have come out through Centro, because there is just so much that I want to talk about, but this video can only be so long. For instance, where we get this test footage of 2 unknown unused Pokemon. One seems to be going for the Godzilla type of vibe, whilst the other one goes for like a Pika clone sort of vibe, I guess. It's definitely a water type, as we can see, as it uses water gun, and the other one seems to be some form of ground type, maybe part dragon, I'm not too sure. Either way, I really do like these 2 designs, and I know it's hindsight, but I would love to see these guys in an actual game. There is a whole lot more to explore with this Terra leak surrounding the beta test footage, music files, and some very interesting lore updates to some fan favorite Pokemon that might just change your opinion on them for life.